The Vikings of Norway and Denmark are legendary in their historical stature. The tales of gold plundering, axe-wielding, great bearded men from Scandinavia are told widely to this day, with fierce warriors like the sons of Ragnar and Harald, Hardrada, who, in fact, could have been kings of England instead of William the Conqueror. Only two of many names that spring to mind when the Vikings are mentioned. Viking civilization as we know it today began around the 8th century. It lasted until the 11th century, and more precisely around 1066, after Hardrada's failed attempt on the English throne, although Viking raids of England and other countries did continue throughout the 1000s. With the amount of raiding and trading done by the Vikings, as well as the number of new towns and villages that they built across Europe, it is only natural that their legacy lives on in more than history journals to this day. Viking relics are still being discovered. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a closer look at 3 Viking discoveries. The Norwegian Viking Saga. What do you think of when you think of saga? Do you think of reality TV shows, or maybe the word takes you back to your high school days? But one thing you probably do not think about when you hear the word saga is the Vikings. As a matter of fact, sagas are a Viking thing. They are defined as long stories of heroic achievement, especially a medieval prose narrative in Old Norse or Old Icelandic. One of the most famous Viking sagas is Sverris Saga. One of the King's Sagas is a group of tales of legendary or semi-legendary Nordic rulers. Of course, these age-old stories are only stories. There is no truth in them, and they were written purely for entertainment. Or so academics thought, until in 2016, researchers made a somewhat unbelievable discovery. Scientists in Trondheim, Norway, discovered a strange skeleton at the bottom of a deep abandoned castle well. The bones did not resemble those of a poor animal who had simply fallen, but those of a creature much more familiar. As researchers began to piece together different parts of the discovery, they eventually concluded something truly startling. Let us go back to the Sverris Saga for a minute. The saga is set in 1197, when the fearsome King Sverris and his ruthless mercenaries are unimaginably defeated at their castle, Sverrisborg. His attackers, a group called the Baglers, burned the castle down and left the king to die, throwing his men into a dark well in the fiery castle grounds. Neither the location nor the name of this castle was ever mentioned in more historically accurate documents. Researchers truly believe that the castle of the Sverris Saga is actually the one where the skeleton in the well was found, and the skeletons themselves could be those of the men whose lives ended defending Sverrisborg that night in 1197. Data quickly backed these claims up. DNA analysis of the bones placed them with a body that existed in the 12th century, and analysis of the abandoned castle works concluded similarly. This means Sverris Saga was actually true, and if this saga was true, then what does that say about the countless other mystical tales that for so long were thought to be figments of the imagination and nothing more? The ring-shaped fortress. It is common to think that the Vikings were little more than crazed, life-threatening people who went from place to place, pillaging and plundering as they pleased. However, recent discoveries have suggested otherwise, adding a layer of complexity to their somewhat misunderstood society. In fact, there is evidence that the Vikings were a civilization with great technological prowess, and thanks to recent technological advances, we have only just begun to understand the true might of their people. In 2014, on the island of Zealand in Denmark, a place steeped in Viking history, archaeologists uncovered a Viking fortress in the shape of a ring. The fort, situated just 50 kilometers from the Danish capital Copenhagen, is the first one to be found in more than 60 years, and is only the 5th of its kind. The fortress, also known as Borgring, was discovered using a cutting-edge piece of tech called LiDAR. This is an aerial surveillance method that shoots lasers at a target and analyzes the reflected beams. These beams are then used to create a 3D map of the surrounding physical features at an extremely high resolution. The reason the fort went undiscovered for so long is that the continued farming and ploughing of the land had pretty much levelled the ground, meaning it was barely visible. The Borgring itself is a geometric masterpiece, a near-perfect circle with a diameter of 145 metres. It consists of 4 gates at the compass directions and is protected by a 10-metre tall rampart adorned with wooden spikes spanning the fort's circumference. With that said, it was not the Vikings' original creation. Interestingly, the Vikings first encountered these circular strongholds on their frequent visits to England, where the Anglo-Saxons used such structures to successfully repel their aggressors. Learning from their past grievances, the Vikings were quick to implement these structures throughout their lands. What is so unique about this particular fortress is that, unlike the others, it was used for more than a generation, whereas a typical lifespan was only about 20 years. Furthermore, 2 of the gates were found to have been burned, suggesting the Borgring had weathered an attack previously. Various items were also found near the site, such as a carpenter's toolbox, presumably left there in haste by its owners to avoid an ensuing attack. The discovery of this fortress only adds to the mounting evidence that there was more to the Vikings than fighting and ransacking. The uncompromising geometry and layout of these structures shows that the Vikings did indeed value organisation in their society and were clearly not some crazed group of barbarians, but an advanced civilization. The Parliament and the Car Park. The relationship between car parks and ancient rulers is one that, completely by chance, seems to be more common than one would ever think, especially in the UK. For example, in 2012, Leicester City Council revealed that the remains of King Richard III happened to be buried beneath a bunch of unsuspecting motorists in one of the city's car parks. Only a year later, in October 2013, a Viking parliament happened to be chanced upon by excavators in a car park located in Dingwall, a quaint town in the Scottish Highlands. The parliament, also known as a thing, was carbon dated and confirmed to be from the 11th century, validating archaeologists' suspicions. The mound that originally caught the eye of historians also contained fragments of iron and medieval pottery, and is only the second thing to have been discovered in the UK, giving hope to historians yearning to learn more about the fierce, seafaring society of the Vikings. Historians speculate that the thing in question was erected on the orders of the powerful Earl Thorfinn the Mighty, who ascended to his seat of power via a victory over the Scots at the Battle of Torfness. His dominion during the 11th century spanned Orkney, Shetland, and a significant part of the Highlands. He is also said to be the founder of the town of Dingwall itself. Interestingly, the Vikings were one of the first societies to have a functioning parliamentary system. The thing was vital to the Viking society as it prevented people from solving disputes through the preferred method of the time, the sword. Although quite different from the system we all know today, there are subtle similarities between the Viking system of government and the modern version. Roughly twice a year, members of the communities would convene to the thing to create laws and solve disputes. The meetings were presided over by a law speaker who was allegedly able to recite the law from memory. Although every free man had the right to speak at the gatherings, it was not unusual for the meetings to be dominated by the rich and powerful. It is clear that the discovery of this cultural gem will only add to our understanding of the Vikings, who have not only left us with their architecture, but also their language and even parts of their legal system. It also shows that even the most obscure places may be concealing the most fascinating history, so one should not be so quick to dismiss a place as boring. You never know what could be lurking underneath your very feet, just waiting to be discovered. But what do you make of the Vikings and these 3 discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comments section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.